quiet as the Flyers get a victory.
Ackberg missed the puck, or Leach rather, and so now you got a 2-on-1. And that was on the glove side high. Roenick was going down the other side, and I don't think Jeremy Roenick had any intentions of throwing that over.
Hey everybody, it's Isaiah, and I'm here with Chef B, who's going to tell us about one of our sponsors here. Chef?
Yeah, O&B Puckcast is now brought to you by Summit Public Adjusters. The winter months can be especially hard on our homes, from roof damage and peeling siding to frozen pipes and toilet overflows. Call Summit Public Adjusters before you call your insurance company. Dealing with your insurance company can be stressful and confusing. Let Summit Public Adjusters take the stress out of the claim process by having our guys work for you. Get the most for your money and your repairs. The next time the big snow or the rain leaves you with some home damage, contact us for a free consultation. Summit Public Adjusters are licensed in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Learn more at summitpublicadjusters.com or call 215-752-0560. Just tell them that the chef sent you.
Yeah, what was that number again, Chef?
215-752-0560.
That's terrific. All right, we're going to carry on with the rest of our show. And we are back. It is Isaiah. Welcome to the O&B Puckcast, episode number 239, brought to you by FlyersNittyGritty.com. As the Flyers have gone 2-0-1 since our last show, they're 4-2-1 in their last 7 games. They've cut their goals against in those last 7 games from 4.5 to almost 2.5. Something's going right. We're going to talk about this kind of stuff. Let's go to our panel. But before I do that, just to let you know that the great Dan Silver has, the chef, what'd you call it, a prior commitment tonight?
Yes. Birthday for Mrs. Silver, I guess. So we're going to say happy birthday to her. Hope she has a great evening. I know Dan planned it out nice for her, so yes.
Yeah. What's your word for the opening segment here?
What's my word? I hope he doesn't. I hope he doesn't take her down to Jim Steaks. I mean, I would love a Jim Steaks, but I think for birthday dinner, you deserve a little higher end there.
Well, yeah, but I mean, speaking of Jim Steaks, and what a corny lead in there. Yeah, Jim South Street, 400 South Street. 40 years of the finest cheesesteaks, hoagies, and fries in the grandest Philadelphia tradition. Trust me, I know what that tradition is. So you got to check them out. Yeah, look, I know you want one, okay? I know you can put on pause. We'll be here. We'll do the show. Go down 400 South Street in Philadelphia. Pick up Jim's South Street, Jim Steaks. You'll love it, okay? So without any further delay, I want to bring on these guys from the Time My Skates pod. So we have Coots, Drunk, Gritty, and Z. So I'll introduce you guys individually. Coots, you are the guy that posts all these wonderful video clips that bring us back to a time when Flyers hockey was actually fun to watch. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thanks for the introduction. How are you guys doing today?
Yeah, we're doing great. We're doing great. Now, I'm going to move on to Drunk, Gritty. Now, I don't know how many you've had tonight, but I
just
know
one.
Yeah, just one? Cool.
Just one.
I got a few with me.
Oh, okay, cool. And of course, Z is a quiet assassin. This guy might be the deadliest of the 3 that are with us tonight. What's on your mind, brother?
I'm the part of the brains of the operation. I'm in the back, typing on the keyboard.
He's got all the stats.
I have all the stats. I'm the stat guy.
Yeah, we call him stat guys.
Name pronunciations too. If you need that, I'm your guy.
I need help. Help there.
So does DJ. It's pretty brutal.
Dylan Gunther.
Yeah. He said Dylan Gunther last episode instead of Gunther. That one really, I wasn't on the episode, so I was just listening to it back like, oh my God, what is this guy doing?
What are you guys doing?
Yeah, it's a crime. It's a crime against humanity. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible. So this team, let me see, 16 games in, there's 6, 8, and 2. They're still kind of negative goals for and against, minus 14, but still. I mean, let's start talking about these. Sam Ersson, he's 10, 5, and 2. His goals against average is 2.70, and his save percentage up above 900 at 902. And there's a stat here, a couple different interesting ones. Last 5 appearances, 3-0-1 at 1.63 goals against average and a 940 save percentage. And also in the PK, this is interesting. So of 29 goalies played at least 40 minutes on the PK, Sam Ersson's 977 is number 1 in the league. And in the last 7 games, the Flyers have gone 17 for 17. So there's some really solid numbers. Sam Ersson is kind of emerging. And maybe one of you guys want to talk about what you're seeing. I mean, we can talk about the mess behind him and the soap opera behind him. But, I mean, Sam Ersson is starting to look like the guy we thought that was emerging last year. Coots, what say you? Yeah, I mean, as cheesy as it sounds, they always say it, but your best penalty killer has to be your goalie. And he looks really dialed in lately. He's finding his game. He looks calm. He's not shaky. In the beginning, he was last year and in the beginning of this year, he was real leaky, but he's really, closing up all those little gaps, being real tight in the center. I'm really liking his game.
Cool. Yeah,
cool.
I mean, I'm a person that was very critical of Sam Ersson, like towards the second half of last year, but you can really see how this season started, where they're kind of forcing Fedotov and now Kolosov to get starts that just make it a lot easier for Ersson in net, where he does not have to play like 60, 70% of the games. He can kind of probably play roughly like 50, 55. And that's probably roughly where he's at right now this year, because Feddy and Kolosov have been playing a decent amount. And you can kind of see that it's benefiting him, and he's like really sitting in the net a lot better and making those tough saves. And he's a big reason why we're winning these games, because without him, like if one of the other two guys were in that, I don't know how many of these games we would win.
Yeah, absolutely. And Z, on the shootout especially, I mean, we saw that the last game.
He's a patient goalie in net, especially on the shootouts. He really waits for the shooter to make the first move and then reacts to that. And not just the shootout, in start of that overtime against San Jose had a power play and he made, I don't know, 3-4 10-bell saves. Yeah. He was great. Like he basically got them the win in that game, a game where they, should have been 8-2 or 3, not 4-3. Also, just the Torts talks about all the time, the team loves playing in front of him. Like they're really comfortable playing in front of him. I think that speaks to his steadiness. He's starting to look like a starting goaltender. I won't fully say he's there yet, but he's starting to look like it.
Right. Maybe it's most accurate to say he's emerging. Let's see if we can keep the trend going, So, Chef, there is a real soap opera behind him. But, yeah, why don't you weigh in on Ersson? I want to talk about what happened when the Flyers played Tampa Bay, because that came out of nowhere. No one saw that coming.
No. All right. So I'll elaborate. This is exactly, and it's just going to sound crazy because I did state it to be that I expected all this. I even said when they were in the midst of that, before they started turning around, they were pretty much in the same exact position they were last year. It's just everybody misremembers how, because we forget that we think they got off to this great start last year, but they really didn't. And isn't it funny? Because I think we can go back the last 2 seasons where the Flyers turned it around and made a difference was either somehow affected by the San Jose Sharks the last 3 years. How incredible. When they did that West Coast, right? So I see the Sharks coming into town, and I go, all right, we're going to go on a 10-game run right here, or something along those lines. So I was I'll give Vanacek a lot of credit. He made a hell of a lot of great saves in that game. That game should have been worse off than it was. But I mean, easily. I mean, to walk out of that game and still have a 930 save percentage against them, against the Flyers, that was great. So I'm pretty to say happy about where they are. No, I'm not happy about where they are, but it's kind of like what I expected. They're performing, and a lot of this is, and I'm going to say this, and because you see it in football now. I don't know about basketball. I don't watch a lot, and you have spring training for baseball. It's a whole nother animal. But for hockey, when they didn't really play together a lot. The lines. I mean, you think they only had one game together, and then they had all the scrubs play and all the AHL guys play against each other, and then it was a whole week, almost a whole week without them playing together, and then they started on the road. 3 different time zones, and I'm not making excuses. I'm just stating facts. These are facts.
And the coach didn't want to coach. Remember, he's up in the press box.
Yeah, so you had all these things where like these guys were like, holy crap, like they didn't have time to gel. And then taking the fact that we're jumping and mixing up the lines, I think a lot of that is, I think now you're finally getting some set lines, sort of. You got one guy out here, one guy out there. It's settling down, but more so, they're playing together more as a team. And I think they just needed that time to gel. And now we're going to see this, and I think it'll scale. This record probably will scale up, maybe 1 or 2 more wins, more in the win column, but it'll scale up to the end of the season. And, you'll see they're right around 500 team, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. But, you have to think about it. What the hell were you really expecting this year? You lost Carter Hart, good or for bad, it doesn't matter. He stole you a lot of wins at the beginning of last season. Now you need Big Sam to steal you some more now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And what's behind him is going to have to work out, or that's where you're going to have a depletion in what you're going to be able to expect out of Ersson. So I mentioned it about what the Tampa Bay game, where we were really deep in the crap with an injury to Kolosov, and all of a sudden it's got to be for Dotov, and it's going to be like 8-2 or something, and he just came out of nowhere. He got a little luck in the beginning, caught lightning in a bottle, but he actually played pretty well. Z, you're shaking your head there. Let me go to you about your impressions of that night, because it really shocked everybody.
Yeah, and up until that night, he didn't look like an NHL goaltender, right? So,
right.
And going in that game, you have Flyers had to sign an e-bug emergency backup goalie to a 1-game contract. He's on the bench. He can be put into the game. He doesn't need to be an emergency situation. But really, you're telling Fedotov, like, you don't have backup. You don't have a way out of this. You're going to play this game. You can't pull the chute and go sit on the bench and have another guy come out and save you. And he really made some great saves in that game. You still saw a little bit of him, sliding out of position. There he got lucky with some flub shots here and there, but he successfully dueled Andrei Vasilevsky, one of the best Russian goaltenders, definitely one of the best goaltenders in the league right now, besides Bob. Looking for his 300th win, and the Flyers, sneak away with the shootout win, which is surprising to say. It's been a theme this year. And he looked steady in the shootout too. He stopped both shooters. So it's 1 game. We'll see where it goes from here. But I think he bought himself some more slack, whereas they were probably heavily considering sending him down for a conditioning stint or something like that, and keeping Kolosov up if Kolosov was healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. And Chris, I'll go to you. What is that? Where does that leave us with Kolosov? Like that whole situation about going back to the KHL and Dynamo Minsk, and if Fedotov has earned the right to get another chance at nailing down this backup job, like this is a nice little soap opera, but it affects the team on the ice.
We're finally a goalie factory, right? I think a little
I wouldn't say that yet.
Factory?
I know. No, I'm just being goofy, but I think a little healthy competition is a good thing. I think you're going to see both of them get a few starts here in the next few weeks or next few months, and it's going to be make or break it for both of them. So it's exciting to see. I mean, if we're not expecting much out of this Flyers team, but we'll be able to see this awesome goalie battle. We'll be able to see some young guys, make an impression on the team and on the fans. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
gotta say, I agree with Z when he was saying it was just one game. I personally still think I have Kolosov ahead of Fedotov on the goalie depth chart list, at least in my opinion. Might not be the same opinion that, Flyers management holds, but yeah, I mean, I see no point in sending either of them down at this point. Like, they can rotate in games while Ersson still takes a majority. And it is nice to see Fedotov have that one good game. The Kucherov goal was pretty bad, in my opinion, but it is one goal, and that's the only goal he let up all game. So if it's just going to be that one minor mistake, then, that's fine. As long as you're making every other save in the game, then I'm cool with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's in spite of the good news story in net overall, and especially recently, I still see at least one iffy kind of goal almost every game.
Yeah.
Where if you had somebody who was in the top of the league, in the top 10, most of the time that goal wouldn't go in. So, and I agree with Fedotov as far as not looking like an NHL goalie. Because to me, he doesn't know his depth in the crease a lot of times. He's looking back, and the rebounds were a little bit better versus Tampa, but not great. That's something he really got to work on, and the depth. And as far as Kolosov, I mean, he's, to me, with the reflexes are super.
Yep.
And it's just, if he would be more patient, he should be in the AHL working on his game. To me, he's got a higher ceiling and a better future as kind of like a UC Saros and, dare I say it, Pelle Eklund kind of goalie who uses its reflexes and its proper
Pelle Lindbergh,
spacing.
not Eklund.
Oh, Pelle Eklund, right. Pelle Lindbergh. You got me. Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, I mean, it's that kind of goalie. But I mean, the thing is, the dynamic is the agent, right? And the player wanting to get out there and to be. I guess he wants to style and profile in the NHL. He doesn't want to ride the buses and play three games in a row. Some one horse town.
Yeah. That being said, he got his chance probably earlier than anyone expected, and he's posted an 863 in the 3 games he's played. So it's not like he's looked amazing either, but you do see, 22 years old. He's more of a, prospect, someone that the team needs to build up, needs to get those AHL games. But you see the workings there of an NHL goalie. You see it, you can see it coming together. Whereas Fedotov, he's 28. He's like almost a finished right? He's almost a finished product, right? He basically is. And like you said, I mean, he's 6'7". He plays like he's 4'3". Like, he just stand at the front of your crease and get down, and don't let these pucks from the point through. And yeah, the agent has a lot to do with it, but I also think the contract they gave Fedotov has a lot to do with them getting Michcov over early too, because they do have the same agent, and I think that's part of it. I think they had really good reason to send Fedotov down before that Tampa game to get some sort of conditioning thing, because I mean, I think he was in the 830s or something. It was a percentage.
Show, yeah.
But
basically saved himself.
Yeah, but now, he saved himself with that game. I think he maybe gets a couple more, and perhaps they send Kolosov down. But we'll see. I mean, we'll see with these guys getting injured and getting healthy, and what they do with the roster.
Yeah, Chef, go ahead.
So I'll say this. I say it's too early to say what Kolosov is, because I still think he's still living in KHL land, because you see the way he's set up. Sometimes you can see it. I mean, I pause it because it looks funny. I'm a big movie guy, so when you see movies in certain ways, shot certain ways, you want to see your goalie set up center screen like he's the hero in a movie. And you can see he's not center. He's off to the left or he's off to the right when play's developing, and you want him to be that thing. So I think it's more about angles, and I think he could figure that probably out.
Yep.
And because he seems like he's a smart kid. He seems like the way he's reacting, he's got the ability to process all that. And I think a good 10, 12, 15 KHL stint would probably get him to the NHL ready more than playing. NHL is not a developmental league. We've seen that with Michcov now too. But that's a different topic. We'll get to that. But let me go back to this now. And Fedotov, I think if he's got to trust himself. I think it's a confidence thing with him because look, and he was and Dan has brought it up because I'm not a KHL guy. I don't follow any of that. It's too hard to watch those games for me. But I will say this. Dan was kind of right, Dan Silver, when he said he was probably the best goalie in the KHL for probably 2.5 seasons. And that's something to be said because it's not a joke league. It's a pretty decent league. It's their best league in the world. So, there's something to be said there. So there is something there. I think it's just it's a matter of getting in there, pulling out that confidence in him, saying, this is what you build on. You got to do that. And that's my opinion. I think if anything, it should be Kolosov backing him, going back down to the Phantoms and Fedotov backing him up right now. And they should get that full-time duty and get it done underway real fast. Not because it's a punishment, but because I think it's best for everybody involved's development.
Yeah, and the thing, like he talked about, he makes himself talking about for the top. He makes himself small, and I don't understand it. He should be deep in his net and just blocking the puck, especially until he gains better rebound control, and not trying to be so athletic. He doesn't. It's almost like he's trying to play more like Kolosov. He has so many built-in advantages. Play to that, that type of player. Or maybe he just watches Vasilevsky and he's nowhere near as athletic. But moving on, because, there's so many big storylines. The Flyers just got done with 2 games where Matvei Michcov, who this whole season seems to be dedicated to, was scratched. And DG, what was your reaction when you heard? Did you see that coming? We knew it was going to happen sometime, but did you see it coming when it did? That Michkov is going to get scratched for not just 1, but you got 2 games.
I feel like when you have John Tortorella as your coach, that it was almost a formality that at some point this season, Michkov was going to be scratched. And, I personally don't agree with the decision. Like, I definitely don't, and I still don't agree with what they did. I can understand the 1 game aspect. Like, I can come around to that and be like, okay, I get it. It's just 1 game. Sit down, watch some tape, watch the game from above and learn some things. But the second game is the one I more so have a big problem with, where it's like, okay, this is just ridiculous now. He had 10 points in 13 games. He's your second best offensive player behind TK right now. Like, why are you not putting him in the game? Like, maybe we won't make the playoffs. Maybe we will. I'm leaning towards no. But, like, if you want to at least give it a shot, like, you have to play your best players. And I just think it was silly, at least for the second game. I don't agree with either, but, it was a little shocking, to say the least.
Yeah. Coots?
Yeah, I 100% agree with DG. I just think when you have a player that talented, the good outweighs the bad. Like, sure, he misses a back check here and there, but I don't think he's been as bad at all as compared to some of the other players on the team that might deserve more of a scratch than him. But I think the scratches were good for him overall. But like DG said, I don't agree with him.
Gotcha. Z, you want to weigh in?
Yeah, I think we saw it coming. There, he was, benching him for a few shifts in the Boston game. They get him out there for the power play and then benched him again. And then in the Carolina game, I don't think he played the last 10 minutes of the third period. And then he was not on the 6-on-5 with the pulled goalie at the end. So writing was kind of on the wall. I'm a believer of, if you want to teach a guy something, he should be out there playing and working out on the ice rather than from up top. If it was like a sort of reset in terms of his energy and like, sort of a load management thing, I could kind of see it from that perspective. I don't think that's what it was, but I do think in some of the games he was starting to look tired. I think the most he's played in the season is like 50 something games, and the beginning of the season, like Chef said, was like a sort of a gauntlet of a West Coast trip, and then they had like 3 back-to-backs in 10 games or something like that. So I could see him maybe needing some rest, and he did come out with energy in the San Jose game.
2 points.
Yeah, 2 points. The second scratch, was a surprise to me. But again, like you said, when Tortorella's your head coach, you can't really be surprised when a young kid's getting treated like that.
Yeah, I could see that. I think the thing EJ talked about, but Eric Johnson, the veteran defenseman, he talked about how the kids aren't used to playing that many games, especially if they're coming over from Europe. And he mentioned how Anaheim is dealing with Leo Carlson, and I think he mentioned that, and that Michcov is such a competitor, or maybe that was Tortorella that said that, he competes, and I'm not worried about him and that kind of thing. Chef, you got a little bit of a different slant, so why don't you weigh in?
Yeah, everybody's going to hate me for this one. All right, everybody forgets that he was he was not playing good the last 2 games before he got scratched. He was lagging behind in play. His defense wasn't there. He was missing his assignments. And justifiably so, he should have got benched. Now, whether or not, I think everybody on this panel and probably through Flyer fandom could accept the fact that he gets benched for 1 game. I can accept that too. Here's my thing. This is where I think, and I've heard other podcasts talk about it in this too. Remember, and Z is right. I will quote, 2021, he played 56 games. 21-22, 41. 22-23, 42. And 23-24, 48. So he's never – he doesn't have the pace to be on this. And we forget he's 19 years old. We all thought at 19 we could rule the world and we could do anything we wanted and could be that player. All right? I still think that. And after working out tonight, I could tell you it's hard doing that. So, but now – I
just want to let one in. I could have been a contender. I just, it's over now. But back then, I could have. Go ahead. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So, no. So now, why is it okay to send a player down to the AHL to do a conditioning if he's goalie or get it squared away for goalie, but God forbid you do it for a winger or a center? See, my whole problem is this. I didn't have a problem with the first one. I still didn't have a problem with the second game. You know why? Because you don't put him out there after. Let him come home to the Flyers fandom, who's all fired up. You're talking about a team that's playing crappier than we did, So you look at that and go, okay, so he's going to be home. He's going to be in his own environment, And here's the thing. They took the pressure off him, too. What line was he on? He was with what? He was with Noah Cates and
Richard.
Yeah.
No, he was with Richard and Paling
on the 3rd line. Yep.
I thought he was on Cates. I thought Cates was on there for a couple lines with him too, a couple shifts.
No,
but either way, the pressure was off. Yeah, the pressure was off him. So he was able to do his thing and learn. You know what? Sitting up there and looking at that, you can learn a lot just by sitting there. I think it was a smart move, and I think this isn't going to be the end of it because you can't expect somebody to go from playing 48 games to 82. And not so. Remember what happened last year? We all puddled out, especially under Torts' system. They got in there, and you can say what you will about the coach, and you might be mad at him. And I'm fine with that too. You could question his methods, but last year he got results, and they fizzled out because they were tired, they were beat up. You don't want that with your star player or some of your grown. Let them learn because iPads are back on the bench again because it's a language issue, and he could show them stuff too. I think. If you're looking at, I saw iPads. I never saw that before in the last 2 seasons. So I'm just going to say,
iPads.
Yeah, he hated them, and exactly. So, but this is a way to communicate with him easier while he's on the bench and without having a translator there. So I'm sitting there going, this isn't the worst thing, and it's probably not the last time. He might get benched when he's playing good. Just hey, look, you're going to burn yourself out. Build up to it. You got. Hopefully 15, 20 more years that you're going to be playing this game. And let's not burn you out now. I thought it was a smart move. I was happy with it. I was fine with it. And he came back strong. And I think it was it Z said he's second in the team in points, only behind TK. So it's not like you hurt him or lost him. And I think he leads all rookies in points too. So that bet I made at the beginning of the season is still looking good. So.
We hope so. So you're going with the load management approach from that. I'm just kind of holding back judgment. With Tortorella, he vacillates between coaching to win the game and then coaching to teach a lesson. And then sometimes it, no matter how much he denies it, getting personal and doing things for spite. And that's the thing that, like, last season with Couturier, I mentioned in the last show, like, either Couturier was hurt or he wasn't hurt. They're going to criticize how poorly he was playing because he was hurt, or was he healthy and you overplayed him, which is really kind of all came together. You played him too much in the beginning last year. And for a guy coming off an injury for 2 years in a row, like a serious injury, and then, it makes him captain, goes out of the way. 3 weeks later, he's basically saying, you're, and I got to scratch you. And that was nonsense. And you knew it when Briere ran out there and came to his defense and saying he's battling a couple injuries. So clearly, with Tortorella, it's never so cut and dry. Coots, you're shaking your head there. What do you got to say?
No, I agree with you. I think there's a method towards his madness, and everything he does, it's for a reason. And I don't know. You might have convinced me, Chef. You might have convinced me that it was kind of a good move.
Well, it's NHL. We just said it, middle league, and granted, he has all the raw talent and skill, but you got to be able to take it back and look at it too during the whole process. I'm sorry, Drunk Gritty. Go ahead.
Thank you. I was just gonna say that, like, this just shows that, like, there can be different perspectives and you can understand different people's points of view. Because, like, when you were talking, like, I understood your perspective on the situation, and I agree with the way you're looking at it. And then, like, the other perspective where it's like, hey, like Coots and I were saying, like, he's gonna learn by playing. Like, you can show him tape after the game, like, and stuff like that. Whereas, like, you could still play him and still get to the same results. So, like, I like that there's different perspectives and that you can understand the points from both sides. But I will say, maybe a main factor for why I wish he wasn't being benched is because I did bet on Michcov to win Rookie of the Year. So if there was some type of, like, assurances that less games played and less points than Stankoven wouldn't affect the voting, then I would, lean more so that the benching was okay in my mind.
Good call.
Okay. It's good to state your priorities up front. I appreciate that.
Can we talk about how the team played when he was out, though? In the Tampa game,
I was just going to talk
Florida
about
game?
their so-called connectedness that seemed to come back into their game. Maybe that's where you're going.
Yeah, sorry if I'm jumping ahead. Yeah, I think they really got back to the forecheck and the shots on goal that we saw last year that, like, was their strength. They outshot Tampa. I'm not sure if they outshot Florida. I think they did. I mean, in that overtime, they had 4 breakaways on Bob that he was stopped amazingly. But they really got back to the nitty gritty of their game, and they looked good. They looked like last year's Flyers, right? And same in the San Jose game. They had like 43 shots in the San Jose game. So I don't know if Michcov being out has to do with that. I have noticed at times maybe guys are deferring to Michcov because he is on the ice. They're trying to get him the puck so much that they're moving away from their game, and maybe having him out of the lineup got them back in sync to how they were playing last year.
Yeah, I think they were more assertive in their game and coming, as Torts would talk about, playing as a 5-man unit and having that so-called connectedness. And he talks a lot about that third man high and having, allowing the defenseman to pinch. Of course, outside of Sanheim and York when he was healthy, I haven't really been that impressed with the guys who have more of an offensive bent in bringing some of that assertiveness. And then all of a sudden it brings us to the emergence of Emil Andrae, kind of giving us what we thought we might start to see from Jamie Drysdale, who's currently battling a minor, but significant enough upper body injury. We got to talk about Andrae. It's like he can't be going anywhere, even if he's less than what he's been over the last little bit. I mean, he's the best thing we've seen on defense, at least as an offensive catalyst, probably since, I don't know, what Ghost. DG, what say you?
Yeah, I mean, it was San Jose, but in that game, he was extremely noticeable. And maybe sometimes with defensemen, you don't want them to be noticed. But in his case, like, he's pushing the play offensively the entire game. Like he was everywhere. Every shift he was on the ice, like he was like almost controlling the play on the ice, which was really impressive. And I even took to Twitter to compare him to Kimmo Timonen because he just reminds me so much of the style of player that Kimmo was. And if he can become anywhere close to that level for us, I mean, I'm going to fall in love with this guy in our defensive group because he's been great. And talking about Drysdale just a little bit, like I think Andrae will almost help Drysdale get that extra drive once he gets back from injury to actually perform, because we saw a little bit of Drysdale last year, but so far this year, I feel like he's kind of been extremely unnoticeable. He's been given every opportunity. And, you know, I'm hoping that Andrae's good play continues and helps, you know, not just himself become better, but other players on the defensive core as well.
Yeah, I think with Drysdale, when Torts talks about he needs to be rebuilt, I think that's what we're watching right now. This guy hasn't been receptive to the kind of coaching you got in Anaheim, which I don't get it. I mean, they have some really good defensemen in Zellweger and Michcov, guys that really came up through their system well enough that they felt they could get rid of Drysdale to get the goalless William Gauthier. But I mean, I had to throw that in there. No, well, whatever
has
you
to
want
be
to call it.
mentioned. Just has to be mentioned.
Yeah. For now, I mean, I'm not rooting against the kid. I mean, you know, we don't do that. I mean, watch Montreal fans go crazy about Michkov. I can't, you know, I don't want to be that guy. Yeah, never. But I think Drysdale's going to take a while because he came up during the pandemic era, and he just didn't get what he needed from Anaheim, like I talked about. And you hope that Brad Shaw, if anybody can make something, you know, lemonade out of this lemon, because right now it's just really not assertive. But I think the other benefit of Andrae is that it's going to push Drysdale down in the lineup a little bit more, maybe more protected minutes, can just take it a little bit slower, and it'll help him. But the thing is, Andrae had a terrible game against Carolina, so I don't want to forget about that. But of course, he was saddled with
who was he
Zamula.
paired with? Yeah, exactly.
Z, he had Z as a partner. What were you doing that night?
Not
man?
Me.
No, yeah. I mean, Zamula, I mean, is the team interpreter. And so he's in this hierarchy, this crazy, silly hierarchy. Zamula is the seventh defenseman, really. Yeah. That's what he is. What's going to happen if Andrae sticks around? Cam York is back. They're not going to alternately scratch Zamula and Drysdale. What do you think's happening? And Zia, I'm going to give it to Z at first because I'm asking about Z.
Yeah, well, they do have Drysdale's injured now, so they do have room right now, and then they're carrying three goalies, and they have Richard. So if they want to keep the three goalies on, I would guess Richard would be the first one to go, right? And they would keep the 9 defensemen, whatever we have right now.
I think it is.
Yeah, 8 until Drysdale comes back. But you do have a decision to be made. You do want to get Johnson to his 1,000 games. I think he's 2 away, 1 or 2 away. But I mean, Zamula, he's not waiver exempt. I don't think any team would take him if he was sent down, but you do risk losing the kid for nothing. And I think they did, Torts did really like him last year. So I think they're trying to get back to that somehow, but I see him as in the lineup, like you said, like a seventh defenseman, put him in there every once in a while when a guy's tired, a little banged up. Ristolainen's been great, moved up in the lineup since York got injured. But you really got to see how your lines shake up. And like we said, Andrae played 25 minutes against San Jose, but he played 25 minutes. He's not going down. He's our power play 1 quarterback.
Yeah.
But I do agree. I think a little competition is good for Drysdale. He was gifted that PP1 QB spot to start the year, and he hasn't done anything besides pass the puck. He doesn't have a shooting threat. I don't know if he's scared to shoot. He doesn't want to shoot. He doesn't shoot. And when the guy at the top of your power play is no threat to shoot, they can just sit back and take away the passing lanes. So maybe this is what Drysdale needs. Maybe, like you said, he needs a sheltered third pair minutes, and he can, sort of get out of this rut he's been in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Chef.
Go to Coots first. I want to hear what he has to say, and then I talk a lot, so let I want to hear from
You're
Coots.
fine.
Yes, you do talk a lot. Yes. Go ahead.
I actually last year. I really liked Zamula's game. I thought he was a good pass first defenseman. He got a little bit of power play time, and he was making pretty good plays. But this year, it's just I don't know. He looks like he lost a step a little bit. I don't know if it's a confidence issue. I don't know if he kind of, because he is that team translator, does he think he, has a spot made for him? I'm not sure what it is. But yeah, I Drysdale too. I'm wondering, I'm watching him this year too when he was playing. It almost looks like he's trying to do too much. He's not keeping it simple. I think the best thing for a defenseman to do is to keep your game simple, unless you're a crazy, skilled guy like Makar or Heskin or Hughes. Yeah, I think the best thing for defensemen to do is just make the simple pass, take the simple shot, find sticks in the lane. And I think Drysdale's getting kind of a little bit too carried away, trying to do all these little spin moves and this and that. He's getting a shot blocked. He's getting getting the puck poked off his stick, causing odd man rushes on the break. And then on to Andrae. I mean, I'm loving his game. Not only DG mentioned his offensive game, we've seen some amazing passes from him, but he's kind of a pest to play against. He's like, do you guys remember Freddie Meyer? Little Freddie Meyer, like 5'9", 190, almost 200 pounds, just getting in the mix, getting in your grill. And he's not afraid to do that, which is kind of rare for a Swedish player too, especially a small Swedish player. So I'm kind of excited to see where Andrae goes. He's only 22 also, so I think the world's his oyster.
Yeah, I hope so. I don't know if you guys saw it. It was posted. I think it was Jordan Hall posted a board battle between Michcov and Emil Andrae.
Yeah,
and they were really going at it, and that just goes to show you. It's like kind of. I think it was our buddy from Jim from High and Wide was talking about iron sharpens iron, and that's what it was. It was two guys very competitive that were just doing a board battle drill.
That you need that compete in practice too. It only leads to better gameplay, really.
And that I think that's an adjustment that he made, because the two games he played at the beginning of last year, he was really getting banged around on the boards. I think it was the Islanders and someone else, but they were really taking liberties against him. Yeah. So it's good to see that improvement.
Yeah. And with regard to the chemo comparison, he's just got to tighten up his D game a little bit, and he'll be better at picking his spots to take chances. Don't forget, when Chemo came here, he was 32 and a grizzled veteran, and we still got lots of really good years out of him. So I try to remind people, Chef, you had a
okay. All right. Yeah. So in regards to Zamula, all right, last year, you're right. He was better. He was getting shots through from the point. Remember last year, he had a couple of, snipes from the point that he scored on. And his stuff, and he was playing, even though he was slow as molasses, his play read was a lot better last year too. I mean, he's skating in Slurpee water or whatever the hell it was. So, but the point being there is it's not there this year, and I think that was the reason for concern. I don't think so much it's that he thinks he's getting a free ride as an interpreter or anything along that line. But now Risto has been really steady and above average. I say pretty good. I won't go as high. I say C+. He's been for the team. I always said that contract that they gave him was, Isaiah, you said it was, it was a horrible, and it probably was, but over time that's going to look like it's going to be a very palatable and somewhere easy to move. Maybe this year, maybe next year when they're ready to make those moves. I think if you're talking about the odd man out defenseman, I don't think necessarily it's Zamula, because, like we said, Torts liked him because of what he did last year, and he likes to give his guys shots. I think that because of his salary and if Risto continues to play good, I think, he's one of those guys, because Andre's here to stay. You can't send him down. You can't. I mean, he had that bad game against Carolina, but everything else he's done has been, very above average, let's just say. I mean, he's been not only leading the play on several rushes against San Jose, and who was it before too?
Florida.
Who was the game before? Florida. Yeah, he was up on his skates there on that game too. You saw him; he was down. I think he had two or three shots on net in that game, and a lot of them. Call me crazy, but I think it's going to be from the circles, from the dots down. But anyway, so you have all that. I think they're going to have to look. They're going to have to make that decision, that hard decision when he comes back, that of who's going where. I think they're going to have to play with the numbers, because you're right. You don't want to get rid of Zamula for nothing, because I do think somebody will pick him up because he's cheap enough to be picked up. So along those lines. But I still think odd man out, not because he plays bad, not because of anything other, is just tradability. Because when we start talking about how Frost isn't good and he's been disappeared in the last 3 games, I think that you're going to see that you might be using some of these draft picks that we have excess in with Frost, and maybe Ristolainen to get what you need later on.
Well, yeah, I think Ristolainen and Frost are in a totally different category, though. Ristolainen has something to recommend him. He fits the archetype of the guy you trade, who has a little bit of value on his contract, just enough term to make it worth it, and he's playing well enough, and he's always thought of as a playoff type defenseman. Whereas Morgan Frost, we got to talk about him, because there are rumors that Trevor Zegras is in the rumor mill again, a very comparable player to Morgan Frost, but I think a more complete skill set, just probably a better version. But I mean, you're getting very comparable production from this player who seems to have worn out his welcome in Anaheim, maybe even more than Morgan Frost has worn out his here in Philly. Who wants to weigh in on that one? DG or Z? You go ahead.
We've gone through a few years of this Morgan Frost talk. I've never been a huge fan, but I think we finally know. Like, I think this is what the kid is. I say kid, he's 25 now. He's in his draft plus eight year.
Yeah, his 8th year. Yeah.
He's good for 40 games. That's what you get out of him. He's good for 40 games a year.
And when the games don't count, when there's nothing on the line, that's it.
He'll end this season, if he does play the rest of the season. He'll end with 40 something points, whatever. He'll get his points somewhere, but you need to be somewhat consistent for the full 82, or you're a third, fourth liner. He was given every opportunity to start the year with Michcov on his wing. He started the year with the first line center role. Coots was playing fourth line wing. That didn't last long. He's been given every opportunity to run away with it this year. Even Torts admittedly gave him a longer leash, waited till last game to sit him. But he hasn't been playing well. He's missed 3-4 wide open empty nets probably. And the one goal he does have just, flubbed it, trickled in off his stick. He hasn't looked good. I don't know what you get for him. If you can package something at trade deadline or earlier, I don't know, but I think the experiment's over.
I'm done. DG, go ahead.
Yeah. It kind of sucks just because I kind of had that soft spot for Frost as he's been in the org, and I've tried to have his back, but it's come to a point where it's kind of just like, all right, it doesn't feel like he's going to take that next step. And if he is going to take that next step, it's not going to be with the Flyers. He needs a change in scenario. And like Z said, I'm not sure what you could even get for him at this point. It would have to be as part of a package to entice a team that's willing to take a shot on a guy like that, but he doesn't have that much value. And I mean, the only way to maybe get him value is to play him first line minutes with TK and Michcov and try to get him going a little bit, and then kind of just selling him off before he inevitably falls back down to where he's at now.
Yeah. That's why I was thinking about Zegras. I mean, you have 2 guys that are kind of on the outs with their orgs, and maybe there's a match there. I mean, and the negative with Zegras is he makes almost twice as much money.
Yeah.
Because he had a kind of year that
I don't
Frost
think he's
never
Sports'
had.
kind of player either.
I'm pretty out on Zegras. He's not the kind of player that I think we need at this point. He's very skilled, and he might get better in the next few years, but I don't know. That's not who I'm aiming for, even if he is available right now.
Yeah.
Would you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Would you trade like, let's say, a first round pick, a second round pick, Frost and Bristol line, or shot at maybe a really good 2C that's out there? Would you do that?
100%. We have
Yeah.
3 first round picks next year, so as long as it's not our first round pick, I have no issues with that.
No one's trading 2Cs. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's the problem.
No, nobody is.
Yeah.
But I think that's it, though.
Did you say two centers or a number 2 center?
A second C.
Okay.
A second C for now.
Yeah.
Just one player. I mean, because like Isaiah said, even if you, let's just say, oh, we'll do a straight up trade, but the Flyers can't fit them under the cap, they would still have to release somebody. So somebody would have to go either way in order to even make that even plausible. So money-wise.
Agreed. A guy, I don't know if he's even available, that I've thought about a little bit, and I mentioned this to Z the other day. Shane Wright doesn't seem like he's getting anywhere in the Seattle organization. I mean, I'm sure he still costs a pretty penny because he was drafted 4th overall, but if there was a center that may be in reach for us to trade for, he's one of those guys that I've thought of recently, but I don't even know if that's in the cards.
Yeah, I mean, the Flyers need a big, fast center.
Yeah.
Somebody can really rangy, who can do some of the things Coots can do at a higher skill level and keep up with the pace of play, unlike that player. It's just, they're hard to find. I think of Leo Carlson. I mean, as much as I like Michcov, and I love the player, don't get me wrong. If we had a Leo Carlson right now with all the wingers we currently have, I mean, we'd be really sitting pretty, because that kid's really going to be an SOB to play against, in the years to come.
100%.
Yeah. So the Philadelphia Flyers, where's this team going? Chef, I spit out some numbers about how much better they're doing, and they cut their goals by 2 per game over the last 7 games. And they're talking about, hey, this is who we are. We're getting back to playing 5-man units, like I mentioned earlier. But this is a team that still has too many right wingers, not enough centers. Couturier, keep waiting for him to either get hurt or kind of wear down. Frost, we exhausted that topic. Paling is really a 4th line guy. Cates is a 4th line center. Lawton's really a 4th line center. I mean, these are the things that made me think, this is like an 81-point team or 82-point team this year.
Yeah. Well, I told you, like last year, and trust me, and for these guys that maybe may not know, last year I said the Flyers would miss the playoffs by 2 points. At the beginning of the season, I said they're going to be competitive all year. They'll be in the mix. And everybody was stuffing in my face when they were like 6 games, 8 games, 12 games left. They're like, you look like. I said, okay. I said, I'll take it. If I lose, I lose. But trust me, I lost out on 1,400 and change last year because I bet on them to make the playoffs because they were they were projected to be so bad. I do the same. I always bet my home team to make the playoffs, no matter what sport or whatever, because I can't root against my team. I can professionally say, or doing this, that they're going to miss it by 4 to 6 points this year. And not so much for the fact that they got worse, which they maybe took a little step back, but they got Michcov. And if they score a little bit more in the guys, whatever, goaltending, it doesn't matter. The other teams in the league, obviously, around them got better. Like we all thought the Devils, they crapped out last year because they were hurt more so than anything else. They're in first place. Carolina was going to be Carolina, but the teams that were behind them, like, Penguins, I thought that they were going to have a better year than they're having. Devil Capitals, they were not going to stay where they were either because they made some off-season. I'm just looking at all through the league that they're going to pick around 4 or 5 this year, hopefully, and maybe they can make a move with their picks to get up to 2 or 3, and we'll see, because they got enough of them to make that deal and get that other person that could hopefully play with them. So this team is this. They're like last year. They're gonna be around. They're gonna be in the mix. But then again, because they don't have that excessive raw talent that this team kind of deserves because of all the hard work that they put in. They don't have that. So they're going to start petering out around end of March, right before, beginning, right, and that's going to be, they're going to slowly break down again. Not so much because we traded, Walker or because we lost Carter Hart, not like last year. I think it's just a natural progression for this team that they're going to, because they don't have they don't have 4 solid lines. They have maybe 1.5.
So they're going to regress.
They're going to regress a little bit. Yeah, I said that. Yeah, and I'll stick to that again. But I bet them to make the playoffs. So, like always, like a fool. So,
did you bet on them to make the playoffs in 21 and 22 when they?
Yes.
The odds were probably too good to pass up.
Oh my God! And it was 100. If I think I dropped 100 on it, and I think if I'd have won that year, it would have been like if they would have got to the playoffs, it was like 3,200 or something. But I did win. I did win the year they went in the bubble.
Of the 20,
nice.
Yeah, 20. So, but that was like a fluke too. So,
yeah, as it turned out, it was. I guess the question I have for you guys, and because we talked about it, my biggest disappointment in the offseason with Danny Briere wasn't that he didn't add a player on the roster this year. It's that they didn't go out and get another young player, even if he wasn't ready, if he had to play either in the AHL or he was like another young player. I just keep thinking about these teams that have played. Buffalo has all these centers, and it really bothers me. It's like we have these draft picks. They're developing guys. They're taking their time with guys like Yuri, what's his name from Buffalo? Just a couple years.
The goalie?
No, the center. I can't think of his name. I'll get it.
Okay, keep talking. I'll look.
Noah Osland. They just have some guys like add a guy like that, so then you can kind of, instead of having to go out and make a trade for a Band-Aid because it's so bad. Because we saw how it went in the beginning of the year. They, there's
Kimlev?
another young. What's that?
Kimlev?
No. I'll get it. I'll look it up.
No.
So, Yuri Kulich. So, yeah, and he said, I don't even know he's a center, but I just get young talent, get more young talent, because they just added Lutsenko, and they were so desperate. You could see how desperate they were for anything down the middle. They were going to keep Lutsenko. It just obviously we needed to go back and work on his game a little more. I mean, what was your did you have the similar frustrations over the offseason, or did you feel differently? Coots, I'll start with you.
Well, I'm just wondering, what young centers would you want to go after? Like, are you talking about within our organization, or picking up someone like a Shane Wright, like DG said?
Right, like a Shane Wright, no pun intended. But or like I mentioned Yuri Kulich, and I couldn't think of his name at first, and or getting some kind of young player who hadn't broken out yet, like Marco Rossi apparently was available at some point.
Yeah.
Something that would be a bridge to, instead of rushing a kid like Lutsenko or forcing, even if we got a guy like Higgins or Froland or whatever, Frundell, that's his name. We don't want to rush these kids. We want to bring them along at the right pace.
So I wasn't thinking more that way. I was thinking I'm with Chef. Like, I don't think we're gonna make the playoffs. Maybe I'll bet on them too with you, but but I was more thinking, like, I kind of wish we got a guy like Tarasenko, like a grizzled vet, put up a lot of points, a lot of goals that could help Michcov kind of through the league. I kind of wish we had like another skilled veteran that maybe we could trade at the deadline, but it would be beneficial for a guy like Michcov early in the season.
Luckily, there's a chiseled veteran that's going to be a UFA this summer that could love to play in Philadelphia and already has. So.
Don't say it.
Who?
Gee.
Claude.
Here's my mom calling me. I gotta go.
Don't start this.
Oh, Chef's out.
Claude?
No, but I agree with the Tarasenko comment, Toots. I think that would have been a cool move. And Isaiah, like, I did think that, hey, he's going to do something this offseason to maybe push us further in that right direction. and he ends up doing absolutely nothing, which in hindsight, I think was probably the right choice, at least for this offseason. I think this upcoming offseason, though, when we have like $13 million coming off the cap, is when that flexibility will reemerge and Danny actually has like options to be able to make a move like that. If he doesn't do anything this trade deadline off season to push us in the right direction, then I'm going to start asking a lot of questions. But until then, like I'm kind of okay with what we did. I'm okay with us being this mediocre team that's going to miss out on the playoffs by like 6 to 10 points. Do I wish they were good right now? Yes. It sucks that, Michcov, like I want this season. I kind of want to fast forward to next season because I'm excited for the future of this team.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't want to miss Michkov's rookie year and all the crazy things he's going to get into. Because I mean, he's tried the Michigan like 4 or 5 times. He's tried the between the legs shot a few times. He's going to be fun to watch this year, and that's why all of us are like paying attention. It's just we're in that tough middle stage of a mini rebuild that we kind of just have to suck it up and understand like, hey, like we're not good. We have good talent. We don't have elite talent yet, but like soon those pieces will come together and hopefully that starts this summer.
Yeah. See?
Yeah, I mean, just to counter your argument, Isaiah, I don't think those guys are available. It takes 2 to tango, right? So they're either have a large, they have a large ask, and Danny, I think, is showing as a GM who likes to hold his cards, hold them close to the vest too. And I think there's also a part of it is they still don't know what some of the guys on this team are and still think that they can develop them like a Frost. I think we're done with it, but I don't know, from a management perspective, they might not. They were still waiting for guys, and everyone said this in the offseason, to take the next step. A lot of them have regressed, right? Tippett can't hit the net all of a sudden. Forster doesn't look good. No. He's playing on the 4th line last game. Frost has been a mess. Coots is Coots. He's going to play well defensively, but he's lost that step a little bit. He's been through a bunch of back problems, and TK's point per game and Misha's almost a point per game. So it's tough because you don't want them to pull the trigger too early and blow everything on a kid that maybe they don't know too much about, or that's from another organization that may not develop well or may not have the character that they're looking for. They got bit by because that because they picked a kid that maybe didn't have the right character. My worry is going into next offseason, and Chef sort of brought this up with how they have to outwork all the other teams because they don't have a star-studded lineup. They have to work harder than everybody, and that's really how Torts coaches his teams. I didn't think Torts was the right coach to bring in to develop this team in the first place. I know they wanted to bring the culture and all this stuff and learn how to play the game right and the standard and all that. But Torts squeezes everything out of his guys and gets them as close to being a playoff team as possible. And when you're rebuilding, you need to get that top 5 pick. You need it. When you need a number 1, number 2 center, which they need, and a number 1 defenseman, you need to be in the top 5 because those guys aren't getting signed in free agency, and they really aren't getting traded. So I'm wondering if they're going to end up in somewhat of a worse spot if all these guys in the lineup don't take that next step. And they end up, a few spots out of the playoffs, and they have a 12th pick again, and they have Colorado's pick, which is going to be in the high teens, or close to the 20s, and Edmonton's pick, which is going to be late first round.
Yeah.
No one's trading their top 10 pick anymore.
No, those days are over.
Yeah, it would suck to sit in that middle ground. And that kind of like feels like kind of where they're heading a little bit right now, but it's a long season. They've been playing well right now, but they haven't gone on their 10-game losing streak yet. And we know that's coming. So
yeah,
Maybe.
Danny
Yeah.
hasn't done anything wrong yet in my eyes. My worry is back from those Hextall years where he held on to everybody, right? And he didn't trade anything. And he just signed guys like Dale Weiss and fourth liners, right? And he didn't get anyone to play with Giroux or Voracek, and he just hoped everyone would pan out. And, a couple like Sanheim is good, Konechny's good, but most of those guys aren't on the team anymore. So I hope they learn from that. And, it's different management. So, you don't want to think the same thing's going to happen again, but we need high picks. That's what we need. We need really high picks. And it sucks to want your team to suck, but we need high picks.
Well, to that point, that's why I said you go through it. And I wish I had got my handy notebook and all that I take for all the games that I make. But I don't have my other stuff from the beginning of the year where it said, I had a list of all the teams that that I thought got better than the Flyers.
Yeah.
And if you reverse the order last year, that puts the Flyers around 4 or 5 or 6 picking. And I just think either you get lucky and you win a lottery, or would you spend 2 or 3 number ones to jump 2 spots if you're at 4 or 5 to get 2 or 3? I think I would, especially if it meant. But also, too, next year, we're looking at a better crop of what the Flyers need and a larger draft, a deeper draft. So if you think you can get your guy where you're going to get at, and of course, this is way too early to be even talking about all this crap, but that's how you look at it. This is how I'm looking at this season. It's just another piece. I never thought that they were going to be more than what they are right now. So I'm not disappointed. It's okay I think Jason Martinez even said this, and it's okay to change your expectations as you go through the season. It's fine. And I've done that, but okay, maybe they make it. And if I lose $50 on a bet that they make the playoffs, all right. They miss the playoffs, that's fine too. I know that they're not ready anyway. Last year, to Isaiah's credit, like what he was talking about, he didn't make a move for that especially for that second center or whatever. And that's fine. I mean, they didn't really have the money or the maneuverability to do it. There are too many players, too much money and bad contracts hanging in there like a fish out of water, just gasping for air for this stuff. So I think next year you'll see a significant difference in his moves in the off season, because I think it's just you got to cut the pus out of this team and let it bleed out. And if you have to cut players that ain't working out, you're gonna see that it's gonna happen. So.
Yeah, well, we definitely had some pus in that backup goaltending for a while there. So hopefully that's been cleared out. Gents, we're going to kind of start to wrap it up. I just wanted to say my frustration. From 1973 to 2012, the Flyers were a wagon. They were the kind of team that were in the playoffs for like 80% of the time. They're one of the best teams in the league. Even after winning the Cups, they went to the finals 6 times. It's like they barely went a decade without going. I think the longest they went is from 97 to then again in 2010. And then we all know what happened with the trades and Brizgalov and getting rid of Bob and all that. But since then, I mean, it's like I don't even know this organization. And I know they're trying to get back to what they've been. But where they're at right now, and I think you guys have alluded to it, they need to get like a Pasternak late, the way Boston did, or a Braden Point drafted later the way Tampa did, or else other teams have collected more talent and they're going places like Jersey. Okay. I think San Jose eventually with Will Smith and Celebrini, and now they got Askarov, and goal coming up probably next year or the year after that. I mean, that's right down the middle. It's what you need, and I'd like some of the younger guys. We're better now, but I think they're going to blow right by us. And of course, that didn't work out. It hasn't worked out in Ottawa, and it hasn't worked out in Buffalo forever. So maybe not. But I just find it hard to believe that this team is going to be anything more than like a quarterfinal team when it's all said and done, unless they make the big break or they sign a free agent or they make a big trade that ends up being like back in the day for Leclerc and Desjardins for Mark Recchi, which it totally changed the outlook of that the Flyers in the 90s. Failing that, I just feel like we have a real ceiling on where we're at. So,
yeah, I definitely don't disagree with that. There has to be some changes made, and we're hoping that Danny can make those decisions that can, propel us to the good old days. Just because, I think the cap has caused most of the issues for the Flyers, because prior to 2010 and stuff, like, the cap wasn't really a thing. I don't remember when the cap got created, but
the lockout, right?
Right.
Is that 08?
04.
04? Yeah, so like, without the cap, we have a ton of money. Like, we're one of the most profitable organizations in the league, and it's easy for us to make these huge trades. And we like, back in the day, you trade players for money. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know. Things got to change. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting a whole discussion about luxury tax. I mean, I think the markets that, I hate the cap. It's just rationing resources, and it's just,
luckily the CBA is up in another year or so.
Yeah.
So we can, hopefully things can change a bit, especially the playoffs. I hope the playoffs get revamped back to the way it was, at least.
Yeah, I definitely see that. Coots, any final thoughts?
Biggest thing is, what was it, DG that said it earlier? Don't waste time on prospects like Chuck Fletcher did and all the other guys did. Like, that
was Z, but I'll take
credit. Z. Oh yeah. Don't waste Michcov's prime, pretty much. So if you can make a trade on a prospect who is highly touted, quote unquote, within our organization, trade him. Trade him for a guy that can get placed next to Michcov and take us to the next level. I don't think we're there for that move yet, but next few years, you really look into that and don't waste any time on our supposed really good prospects.
Yeah, so another kind of like with G and Jake, when they were here, they need to do more. I mean, everybody looks back at a lost opportunity.
Yep.
Yeah, and the blame always got put on Jake and G, when it's like, no, they're like the only ones actually doing anything in this organization. There's just no help around them to actually help them become a cohesive unit. Like, you can't win with, like, Drew could not win the Stanley Cup for us by himself. He carried us on his back for a decade.
Oh yeah.
Like, you need a full team, and like the same with Michcov. Let's not waste that. Let's get good players around him that'll actually make us a competitive team in this league.
Well, from your mouth to God's ears, or Danny's ears, that's for sure. So before we roll, I just want to acknowledge Jeremy Roenick makes the Hall of Fame. He's with the Flyers for 3 years, and quite a character. Sometimes a character, too much of a character for some people, but I love the guy. And it was a very fun time when he was here from, like, what was it, 99 to 03 or something like that. Yeah, something.
Yeah.
And 513 goals, 703 assists, 1,216 points in 1,363 games, one of the highest scoring American-born players. And he was so cool because he would say stuff like, when he got traded to Los Angeles, because we were getting Peter Forsberg, before we knew about Forsberg's bad feet. I mean, we were just thrilled because Forsberg was, to me, Lindros' equal, a different kind of player, but just a great player. And he said something like, "Oh, they're getting Forsberg. Hell, I would trade myself to Forsberg." Love that guy,
Well, the thing about JR too was this: he was the kind of player that you hated playing against, but you so wanted on your team. He was the guy that, like, there's a lot of players out there, for whatever reason you hate them, like Matthew Barnaby. I never wanted the Flyers to get him because I always wanted to hate Matthew Barnaby because I didn't want to lose that. But JR was a player that, like, damn, I wish he was on our team because he was that mix. He was the epitome of an American-born hockey player. So
yeah, he was a great guy.
Great Hall of Fame speech. Pretty emotional. If you guys listen to it, he did talk a little bit about his struggles with alcohol and how he was 4 goals away from 500 and no teams were calling in that offseason until his buddy Doug Wilson reached out as the GM of San Jose and told him, "Do you want to come play for the Sharks?" he said, yeah. He said 3 things. 1, you got to play for league minimum. 2, no media unless we tell you. And 3, no alcohol. And he said, done deal. And then I think 3 months later, he scored 500.
Yeah.
He also shouted out the Philly faithful in his speech. He said he commended our passion, the passion of the fans, and compared it to the passion that he played with too. So we got a little shout out there. That was nice.
Yeah. He also, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's kind of crazy, a guy like JR, where, you know, he only played 3-4 years here and he made such a large impact on this fan base. That's how you know, like, that the guy's a gamer. And, like, there's a lot of players like that in Flyers history that resemble that a little bit. But, like, he's one of those guys that I think came here for very short term and just made a huge impact. Jonesy. Yeah. I think Pronger a little bit as well. He was really only here for like 4 or 5 years.
Yager.
The one, these guys come. These guys come to the team and they're instant legends in Philadelphia Flyers history. And like he's the prime example of a guy like that.
Yeah. I think the thing that was different about Roenick is that he's kind of like a Harper in that he got the town right away and he walked the talk, you know. And he was born to be a Philly athlete. It's a shame we didn't get him for as long as Chicago had him in his best years. But he also said in that speech, I thought was interesting, that the 2004 Flyers was the best team he ever played for.
Oh, yeah.
And he felt they should have won the cup that year. But that was frustrating because they lost to Tampa that year. So
he had that game winner against Toronto, right?
Kapanen took that hit.
Yeah, Kapanen got crushed.
Oh my
had to
God!
Be like pulled off the ice. He was. Oh my God, that's terrible.
What I like. Oh.
Funny enough,
it was Darcy.
The one that...
was it Darcy Tucker? No, who hit him?
Yes, Darcy Tucker. Kapanen. Coach, you gotta get that one up real soon.
Yeah.
You had that one?
I put it up before, but I have most recently of Roenick. I have the Halloween moment where he imitated
came out as
just like Bobby Clark.
Yeah.
Oh,
my God, that was awesome.
Bobby Clark was the GM at the time, cracking up in the
yeah.
He told a story too about because him and Belfour were both in Chicago at the same time, so obviously sort of knew his tendencies if he was coming in on a breakaway where you know Eddie sort of knew where he would shoot, and he was coming down I think with Tony Amonte too, who was his like buddy, his hockey buddy, right? They came up together.
Yeah.
And he saw sort of Belfour leaning towards where he would normally shoot it. And so he went the opposite way, and that's how he beat him on that goal. So it's a fun little story there.
He's the Ric Flair of hockey.
Yeah. That was a great moment. That's probably one of the top, 15 moments in Flyers history, that goal, you know. So, Jensen, we're going to wrap it up there. The Flyers play 3 games coming up. So they play... I guess this Saturday versus Buffalo. These are all home games. Colorado on Monday, the 18th, and Carolina the 20th. And then we're going to see you back the 21st with a quarterly review with our buddy Jordan Hall coming up. So, Jens, we're going to give you where can people find the Time I Skates pod? And if you guys want to give your individual accounts, whatever information you want to give, whoever wants to go first with that.
Yeah, we are at Time I Skates Pod on all socials, and you can find us Time I Skates Pod anywhere you get your podcasts.
Fantastic. And I'm just good. Yeah.
If you go on to Twitter, you'll find all of our names there. Like all.
You'll find it. Your boy Coots at Drunkirty00, Time I Skates _Z. Also throw Johnny and Alex a bone at Flyers Johnny and at Flyers Licks. Those guys are big parts of our pod as well, and we do miss them tonight. Johnny, not so much, but
Johnny's a little pest.
He's a scoundrel.
Yeah, but give us all a follow. We're always active on there, minus Z, but he's always on the pod. So if you want to hear Z and his opinions, please listen to the podcast. What's up?
I said
excellent. Just a reminder that the O&B Puckcast is on X at O&B Puck at O&B Puck. And of course, you can find us on multiple podcast platforms: Apple, Spotify, iHeart, TuneIn, Deezer. Of course, we have a YouTube page. Just plug in there, O&B Puckcast, O&B Puckcast. Put that in there. We have a Facebook page, And if you would rate and subscribe, we do appreciate it, because when you do that, it moves us up the charts when people are looking for a Philadelphia Flyer podcast. And with that, we're going to call it a night. Thanks, everybody, for catching us, and take care.
Yeah, thanks, guys.